The Joe Rogan Experience.
Can we talk for a second about Francis Ngannou doing jiu-jitsu?
Isn't that wild?
First off, I was scared of him before. Mm-hmm. Because if he hits you, you're going to die.
Bro, his leg was destroyed going into that fight. He had a totally torn MCL. His ACL
Are you serious?
fucked. Yeah,
oh,
he
is
needs
that
surgery.
Because he had...
knee sleeves.
Somebody was asking me
He needs
about
surgery.
that. Does the opponent have to agree to let him wear those?
No. We were in California, and in California, it's legal to have knee sleeves on. There's some jurisdictions where they'll let you tape your ankles. Some commissions... I'm going to cough again. Some commissions will let you tape your ankles. Some won't. It's like there's all sorts of different rules when it comes to MMA, unfortunately. There's like the unified rules of MMA. There's the changed unified rules that like they've changed some of the parameters of like what constitutes a downed opponent. And then some places will let you tape your ankles. Some places won't. It's like there's a lot going on.
He did the smart move though, both knees.
Yeah, so you don't know.
You don't put tape on like just two fingers. And you're like, I'm fine. No.
Well, do you remember Sakuraba?
Sakuraba's
knees were so fucked that he would tape all the way up, halfway up his thigh, where his knees were like mummified.
How much flexion and extension did he have? Very little?
Very little, man.
Yeah.
When you would see Sakuraba when he fought, like especially later in his career, his knees were the craziest thing. See if you find a video of Sakuraba with his... Look how taped up his knees are. I mean, it's like halfway up his thigh and halfway down to his ankle.
Dude, when Francis picked up that guy mid-kick and they both left the ground he came down.
Oh, yeah.
All I could think of in my head while watching that was imagining, like in a cartoon, the ghost of my body just floating up. I mean, what does he weigh?
Well, he weighed in at 257.
But how tall is he?
He's 6'5",
oh my God.
I believe.
That's Dudley tall.
Yeah. Dudley tall. That's the two of them slamming down to the ground.
Then that's, again, where my ghost... Well, not yet.
Look at the faces in the background. Look at that dude with his mouth open.
Look at the girl, too. The girl on the left, right underneath his knee.
Oh, yeah. Right there.
Every single face.
Everybody's like, holy shit. Yeah. Well, that was his best option to win that fight, given the fact that he was injured.
I had no idea that he was injured. Obviously,
it was significant.
He wasn't talking about that before, though, was he?
Well, we knew about it.
Okay.
We had heard about it. There was a rumor going around. We had heard about it. I had not talked to his coaches, so I didn't know exactly the extent of the injury, and I found out afterwards. And I actually connected one of his coaches with Ways to Well, which is a company that I use here in Austin for stem cells. But he had significant tears in his knee. Like to the point where they were really considering not fighting.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. But he still fought and he still won.
It was beautiful. A man that size? So he weighed in at 257. What do you think he stepped in the ring at?
Well, DC thinks he's about 270 because he looked so much bigger than Ciryl Gane. Because Ciryl Gane was 247, which means Ciryl Gane didn't have to lose any weight. He
weighed in his walk around?
Right. But Francis oftentimes is over the 265-pound limit. So when he goes to weigh in, like he'll just not eat very much like the day before.
Dip under it,
and then weigh himself in. And then afterwards, he'll rehydrate and carb up. So the day of the fight, he looked massive. I mean, he was huge.
Yeah, he looked huge. But he moved beautifully.
Well, especially for a guy with a fucked knee.
Yeah, I had no idea.
I mean, you also have to take into consideration what kind of an impact did that have on his training in terms of his cardio, like his cardio output? Like, what was he able to do? And, how was that going to affect the way he fought and the pace that he was able to fight at?
All I'll say is Francis Ngannou is one of the best arguments for carrying a gun on the face of the planet. Because if you run into that dude in an alleyway, you're going to die.
Yeah, you're not going to hurt him.
No.
Yeah, I mean, Stipe landed some big shots on him and it didn't even ding him.
That's why tools exist. Sometimes you need to have tools.
Yeah. What's interesting is that guy evolving his game and then incorporating wrestling and incorporating jiu-jitsu. And I'm really curious to see what he decides to do in the future. If he decides to box or if he decides to stay with the UFC. Because part of me wants to see him I want to see him box. I mean, I don't want to see him box because I don't love seeing him fight in MMA. I love seeing him fight in MMA. But I want to see him box because I want to see him get a giant chunk of money. like Conor McGregor style Floyd Mayweather chunk of money. Because when Conor fought Floyd Mayweather, they made $100 million.
I don't believe that's bad for an evening's work.
I think that's nice. I would love to see that. Like if he fought Tyson Fury, how much money would they be able to get?
I know nothing about that world. Do you think they'd be able to demand that much?
I don't know.
Is it off the pay-per-view or what they could sell it as?
Yeah, it's off the pay-per-view. It's off what they could sell. I mean, obviously it would have to be very marketable, and Tyson Fury is very marketable, and Francis Ngannou is very marketable, especially him as a UFC heavyweight champion going up to fight in boxing. And it would be weird to see Tyson Fury like a legit 5 inches taller than Francis Ngannou, because that's what he would be. Oh, yeah. Tyson Fury is 6'9". I think Francis is 6'4" or 6'5". I'm not sure. So how tall is Francis? Is he 6'4" or 6'5"? But the big fight in MMA is John Jones. So if
Does he fight at that same weight?
John Jones is fighting heavyweight now.
Is there a weight class above the 265?
There is, but the UFC has never implemented it. It's just not super heavyweight.
There's just not boys out there big enough to...
I mean, I guess there's probably a few, but there's not enough where they felt the need to have a over 265-pound weight class. It is kind of weird, though, that there's a weight limit on heavyweight.
Huh.
Because you would think like heavyweight would just like be the biggest person you had.
That's what I figured. I figured at that level it was like kind of come as you are.
I mean, it could be one day there could be a guy who is so compelling. Like maybe there's some like gigantic Greco-Roman wrestler like Karelin. Like Karelin in his prime, I think was like 290 pounds, something bigger than that.
Yeah.
If you did have a guy that big that was marketable, I could see the UFC implementing a super heavyweight division. But it's available. I mean, it's something that the commissions have sanctioned.